everyone, today we are making Vostocks. These are, I guess, my homage to a product that sits in between the classic Vostock and the almond croissant. So this is similar. I'm using a brioche tin, but you can just bake them as buns. So I'm cutting them in half, soaking them in syrup, filling them with frangipane, putting some more on top, topping them with nuts, and then baking them again. One of the things I love about these is that when you dip them in the syrup and then bake them again, you get this extra crispy bit of caramelization, and you can see this bit of caramelized sugar. That's a bit of the crunch, a very light crunch that awaits you when you bite into the pastry. To prepare the almond frangipane, I'm putting the almonds, caster sugar, some extra virgin olive oil, cornstarch, cornflour, and our last bit is the plant-based milk. Optionally, you can add a bitter almond oil extract for a more marzipan flavour. And then we're blending this in a high-powered blender. So we want to blend that until creamy and smooth and the almond has blended up. Our brioche dough has had its bulk ferment. It smells yeasty. Now it's time to punch it back and shape it. And this allows us to shape it consistently. So I don't like to work with a lot of flour. There's some fat in this dough that makes it a bit more workable. If it is too sticky, feel free to use a little bit of flour. So for my Vostocks, I'm going to be cutting 75-gram portions. Now, I've got these really cute brioche tins that I'm going to use for my brioche. And this is just going to give it a really cute fluted top. This is not mandatory. You can create amazing Vostocks using just buns. Now these can be placed just a couple of centimeters apart on the tray, just very lightly oiled. I've got some nice extra virgin olive oil spray, so just a little bit of that, but feel free to rub a little bit of extra virgin olive oil. Now to shape, I'm just lightly oiling my surface. So we've got a nice soft dough. I'm pinching the sides inwards. Now if you're not very confident, you could just flip it over and be done, but I'm just going to ball it. Now this is a technique where we take our hand and open it so the thumb is on the side. We're going to move our hand around the ball, pushing it against our work surface, and this tucks the sides in and creates a nice smooth surface on top. Sometimes you might get like a bit of like an opening on the bottom. I'm just going to flip it over and put it into the tin. So to this point you could use a little bit of flour. I prefer not to, but I'll show you. So you can sprinkle a bit of flour on them, and it does just make it easier to handle. But I prefer not to have any flour on the surface where I am shaping, because we do actually need the dough to grip the bench in order to tuck the sides in and build some tension on the surface. So if you're not confident with that, you can also use a scraper to help you by pushing it from underneath, and this tucks the sides in to each other, and you're kind of doing a similar thing, getting a nice smooth surface on top and tucking the edges in. For a really good proof, we want to create a warm, humid environment. I like to put my shaped buns into an oven that hasn't been switched on, around the middle with a tray, a roasting tray or any tray with a lip, and then putting some boiling water beneath them. And what that does is, when you shut the oven, creates a bit of warmth and a bit of humidity. This stops the dough from forming a skin and allows a nice even expansion of the dough, and the warmth just helps give that yeast a kick for it to do its job and starts the formation of the carbon dioxide gas, which gives lightness to our baked goods. You want to take these out of the oven about 15 to 20 minutes before they're ready to bake so that we can preheat the oven. So our Vostocks have proved. They've filled our molds, doubled in size. It's taken about, I've said 45 minutes, but it's actually taken about closer to an hour. At home you do need to judge visually, and that is by checking that it has doubled in size. So they're almost done. I'm just going to pull them out of the oven, and I'm preheating my oven for about 15 to 20 minutes while these finish proving. To prove my doughs, I need them to really fill up. I need them to expand, to get gassy. It is handy to have olive oil in a spray can. So you just spray the top very lightly, just so that it doesn't stick to the cling film, and then loosely place a piece of cling wrap on top. You can leave this at room temperature for about an hour to an hour and a half, and these need to really double up. So the oven's preheated and these have doubled in size. So I'm just going to brush them with a layer of the baking glaze just to control expansion, but this is not necessary. You could also just brush them with water to keep the crust like supple so that you get a really full bake. So this could just be water. And this is the baking glaze that I have just frozen into ice cubes, and then I defrost as I need it, so I don't have to make a big batch every time I need some. So I'm just spacing them out so that the air can circulate around them and baking them. So to prepare our sugar syrup for the Vostock, I'm just adding water and sugar to the pan with a teaspoon of vanilla paste. You can also use the seeds of a bean and a bit of rum. And we're just bringing this to a boil and then setting it aside. So to finish our Vostocks, we've got our beautiful brioche that have cooled down fully. Just lining a tray with some paper. I'm going to cut these in half horizontally across the equator. If I was using a bun, I'd do the same thing. You can see this beautiful yellow, golden, light, fluffy interior. And then I'm just dipping each side into syrup. For the almond, I'm just going to pipe a nice layer of our frangipane in the middle of each, and then I'm placing the scalloped part on top, and then I'm piping just a tiny bit more of our frangipane on top. Then we can just dip the tops of our into some flaked almonds for an extra bit of crunch. Then they can go into the oven. So just to finish, we have a light dusting of icing sugar. Look at that. This is a real treat. Fluffy vanilla aroma from the syrup. The rum is just amazing. Please don't leave that out. And then we've got this lovely frangipane in the middle. The crunch, perfection. It's like a cross between a cake and a pastry. I don't know. It's so good.